You studied for 6 hours. Your friend studied for 2. You both take the exam. Your friend gets a higher score. And suddenly you're sitting there thinking, maybe I should have studied for 12 hours. No. That is exactly how you end up studying all day. Sleeping 4 hours, drinking enough caffeine to legally become a coffee bean. And still forgetting everything during the exam. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. More studying does not automatically mean better grades. Sometimes studying more is actually a sign that your study method is inefficient. You're spending hours doing things that feel productive, instead of doing things that actually make your brain learn. So today we're fixing that. I'm going to show you how to study less, remember more, and get higher grades, without turning your bedroom into a 24-hour library. And the best part? You don't need more motivation. You need a better system. 1. Stop measuring studying in hours. Let's start with the biggest lie in education. I studied for 8 hours, so I must have studied well. Not necessarily. You could spend 8 hours staring at a textbook, while checking your phone every 7 minutes, rewriting the same notes, getting snacks, organizing your desk, and suddenly realizing you've spent 40 minutes researching whether penguins have knees. Congratulations! You studied for 8 hours, but your brain worked for maybe 2. Instead, stop measuring your study sessions by time. Measure them by results. Don't say, I'm going to study biology for 3 hours. Say, by the end of this session, I will be able to explain photosynthesis without looking at my notes and solve 20 questions about it. Now you have a finish line. And once you reach it, you're done. Because the goal isn't, how long can I suffer? The goal is, how much can I learn? 2. Stop rereading. Start testing yourself. This is where most students lose hours. They read the chapter, then read it again, then highlight it, then reread the highlights, then watch a YouTube video explaining the chapter, then read the chapter again, and somehow still feel like they don't know anything. That's because recognizing information is not the same as retrieving it. When you look at a page and think, oh yeah, I remember this, your brain might simply be recognizing the information. But exams don't ask, does this look familiar? They ask, can you produce the answer right now? So here's the upgrade. Close the book and ask yourself questions. What were the 3 main ideas? Why does this happen? What is the definition? What would happen if this changed? Then answer without looking. This is called active recall, and it turns studying from, I've seen this before, into, I can actually retrieve this. That's a massive difference. 3. Turn your notes into questions. Here's a ridiculously simple trick. Every time you write a fact, turn it into a question. Instead of writing, photosynthesis converts light energy into chemical energy. Write, what does photosynthesis do? Instead of, the mitochondria produce ATP. Write, what is the main role of mitochondria? Instead of, World War I began in 1914. Ask, when did World War I begin? Now your notebook isn't just information. It's a practice test. And that means you can review an entire chapter much faster. Open your questions. Cover the answers. Try to answer. Check. Repeat. You just turned passive notes into active learning, and your future exam self will thank you. Probably silently. Because they're busy taking the exam. 4. Find your weak spots. This one is incredibly important. Imagine you have 10 chapters to study. You already understand 8. 2 are absolutely destroying you. What do most students do? They start from chapter 1 and study everything again. Why? Because reviewing things you already understand feels good. You read the page and think, yep, I know that. Your brain gives you a tiny dopamine high. You feel productive. But your grade doesn't care how productive you felt. Your grade cares about what you can actually answer. So test yourself, then categorize your topics. Green, I know this. Yellow, I kinda know this. Red, please send help. Then spend most of your time on yellow and red. This is called a targeted practice, and it's one of the fastest ways to reduce wasted study time. Because you're no longer studying everything, you're studying what actually needs studying. 5. Use the Feynman trick. Here's how to expose fake understanding. Pick a topic. Then pretend you're explaining it to a 10-year-old. No complicated vocabulary, no textbook sentences, no hiding behind words you don't actually understand. Explain it simply. For example, instead of photosynthesis is a complex biochemical pathway through which plants convert radiant energy into chemical energy, say, plants basically use sunlight to help make food. Simple. But then something interesting happens. You might get stuck. You might realize, wait, why does that happen? Congratulations. You just found a knowledge gap, and that's exactly what you should study. This is why teaching a concept is so powerful. You can't hide from your own confusion. Your brain basically exposes itself. Yeah, you don't actually understand this part. Rude, but useful. 6. Practice before you feel ready. Here's another mistake. I'll practice questions after I finish learning everything. No. Practice questions should come much earlier, because practice is not just for testing what you know. Practice tells you what you don't know. Let's say you're studying math. You read the formulas. You watch someone solve 5 examples. Everything looks easy. Then you try one yourself. And suddenly you're staring at the question like it personally betrayed you. Good. That's useful, because now you know exactly what needs work. The same applies to chemistry, physics, biology, languages, history, pretty much everything. Don't wait until you feel ready to practice. Practice to become ready. 7. Use spaced repetition instead of one giant cram session. Let's say your exam is next week. You could study a chapter for 4 hours today and never look at it again. Or you could study it for shorter periods across several days. For example, Day 1, learn it. Day 2, recall it. Day 4, test yourself. Day 7, review the weak areas. Why does this work? Because every time you return to information after some forgetting has occurred, you have to retrieve it again. And that repeated retrieval helps strengthen your memory. So don't try to completely memorize something in one heroic study session. Your brain isn't a USB drive. You can't just drag a PDF into it. Give the information multiple encounters. Shorter sessions. Repeated over time. Much better. 8. Make your study sessions brutally focused. Here's something most students don't want to hear. Your problem might not be that you need more study time. Your problem might be that you're studying with your phone sitting 3 inches away. Your phone is basically a tiny casino. Every notification says, "Come on, just check me once." And suddenly you're watching a video about a guy restoring a 1970s toaster. So during focused study, put your phone away. Not beside you, not upside down, not on silent. Away. Then choose one task. Not study chemistry. That's too vague. Instead, learn acids and bases and solve 15 questions. Now your brain knows exactly what it's doing. Try a focused block of around 40 to 50 minutes. Then take a short break. And during that break, actually take a break. Don't replace studying with 20 minutes of TikTok. Because if your 5-minute break becomes a 47-minute documentary about celebrity drama, we have a problem. 9. Create an error log. Here's one of my favorite tricks. Every time you get a question wrong, don't just look at the correct answer and move on. Write down, what did I get wrong? Why did I get it wrong? What should I have noticed? How will I avoid this mistake next time? This creates an error log, and your mistakes become personalized study material. Think about it. Your textbook tells you what the average student needs to know. Your error log tells you what you need to know. That's much more valuable. If you keep making the same mistake, it stays in the error log, and before the exam, instead of rereading an entire textbook, you can review your most common mistakes. That's studying less. while targeting the exact things that can improve your score. 10. Stop studying when you're no longer learning. This might be the hardest lesson. Sometimes you should stop. If you've been studying for hours and you're reading the same sentence 5 times, you're probably not learning efficiently anymore. Take a break. Sleep. Come back later. Your goal isn't to collect study hours like Pokemon. Your goal is to build knowledge. So here's the system. Learn, close the book, recall, practice, find mistakes, fix weaknesses, come back later, repeat. That's it. You don't need to study everything. You need to study the right things in the right way at the right time. And here's the crazy part. Once you stop wasting time on passive studying, you may discover that you don't actually need 8 hours. Maybe you need 3. Maybe you need 2. Maybe you need 1 incredibly focused hour, followed by consistent review. The point isn't to find the smallest number of hours possible. The point is to eliminate wasted hours. Because there are 2 types of students. The first says, I studied for 8 hours. The second says, I learned the material, tested myself, fixed my mistakes, and remembered it. Guess who has the advantage? Exactly. So, the next time you feel guilty because you only studied for 2 hours, don't immediately open your textbook again. Ask yourself, what did I actually accomplish during those 2 hours? If you learned something, retrieved it, practiced it, and fixed your weaknesses, you may have done more than someone who sat at a desk for 6 hours. Because studying isn't a competition to see who can spend the longest time staring at paper. It's a process of changing what your brain can do. And once you understand that, you stop trying to study more. You start trying to study better. And that's how you study less.